Okay, so as the my timeline videos have mentioned, I have also been challenged with having to experience how to detox mold and mycotoxins out of my body. And basically, what that boiled down to was understanding what is the root cause of what is happening in me and what's the root of what is creating all my issues in my body. When I was diagnosed with mold and mycotoxin exposure back in 2023, I had come across a lot of different research through watching many different functional doctors speak on all the different parts of our digestive system, as well as overall health, understanding that the vagus nerve, our microbiome, that we have, every area has a microbiome, the good and bad bacteria, pH, when all this, the alkaline, when this gets out of balance in us, it affects all of our systems. If your stomach acid is off balance, and that can happen from a lot of different things, but that'll then, and it can in turn take your pancreas and put your pancreas in a space where you can start to not produce pancreatic enzymes, and they're helpful and necessary for breaking down our food before it hits the sterile areas of our intestines, right? And then there's obviously the other organs. You have your gallbladder and the spleen that all play their important parts as well. And so it breaks them all down. It's like a domino effect. Once one goes out, it can put the other. So once my pancreatic enzymes weren't breaking down the food, I had also been diagnosed at that time with what was called SIBO, or what is called SIBO, small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. So that's just more bad bacteria than good. And the way that can occur, at least for me, it had, my food hadn't been broken down, so it was going into my small intestine way bigger, not broken down, and it's supposed to be broken down by the time it gets in there. So if it's not, now you have food for bad bacteria to grow more and more and overtake your small intestine, therefore imbalancing your small intestine, and then large, and then so forth, and then all the way down, which all of this can create. And then when that happens in your small intestine and your large intestine, that's what's called leaky gut. Leaky gut is just another way of saying the toxins are leaking through your intestinal walls into your bloodstream. And it's also like another way of saying inflammation of your gut. So once you get inflammation, that's the root of all disease. Inflammation on the physical form. And I was just thinking about the fact that when our bodies are not in balance, and you get to that point of having to try to heal your body from inflammation, that's not a quick. There is no quick, like, oh, I'm just going to do this. No, you have to now dedicate yourself to a lifestyle that entails you to treat your body and your vessel, your temple, with the love and respect and the gratitude that it deserves. And if you came from a space from like toxic type of upbringing where that physical toxicity is stress as well. So now you also have stress on top of that. So let's just say you're in a space where you are physically doing all the things to try to heal your inflammation in your gut and rebalance your microbiome and your good and your bad bacteria, your alkaline, re-regulate your vagus nerve so that your nervous system and your parasympathetic nervous system is turned back on. You're doing all the things like Adding turmeric in your diet, ginger, cinnamon. Cinnamon helps regulate blood sugar. Ginger obviously helps with the stomach, getting fresh, clean ginger. Turmeric is essential, but you want to make sure that you have black pepper in when you're trying to add in any ginger or turmeric, because it literally helps your body absorb those nutrients and those herbs 200 times more. So you don't want to just be taking turmeric without pepper, okay? So those are great things. You want to add things like oregano oil, aloe. If you can find a good hydrogen water. There's a lot of fake and false on the market right now. So that's something that I've gone through my research, and, I've been doing this long enough at this point for myself that I know the right companies to work with. So once you realize that you're doing all and then you're making sure that you're getting good clean water, 2 to 3 liters a day, good clean, and energetically cleaned water as well. In a follow-up video here today, I'm going to show you something that has been a game changer, because it's in the same way of speaking positive energy into your water, and what a lot of people will call energizing your water, because it's not just about getting the physically clean water free of toxins. You need to make sure that the energy of the water is free of, in the same way that you have to cleanse your energy space and your home space, you got to cleanse your water too. And I found, so back in 2022, I found this, this like tool that, like I say, I'll show you, I'll give you an example of how this works, and then include a link to this guy's website, because it's game changer. You can feel the difference. The water even tastes better when you use this. And it's really cool too to watch. So you want to be sure that, you're adding the waters, the good, clean food. If you're adding any type of protein, that it is range free, that it is, you don't want to be buying the non-organic grass-fed, more specifically range free products of any type of protein. Just, you need to know that. I wish I would have understood this earlier in my life, and that's why I will always be very, I learned how to eat organically a long time ago, and it has definitely made the difference. And it can hinder your movement forward and your healing if you're not getting all the, like, if your body's already at a high toxin level, where, let's say you're dealing with inflammation, which I want to say I've heard statistics like it's like 80% of us, at least in the United States, are dealing with inflammation. And once you get inflammation in your gut, that runs up your vagus nerve and into your brain, and that gives you brain fog and memory loss. And cause of the inflammation in the brain is what creates all those brain diseases. That's what the root of it is. So once you know that that's the root cause, kind of like when we're doing mental and emotional healing, when you have an insecurity, what's the root cause of that insecurity? Lack of love, lack of not feeling good enough. So you attend to that. You attend to your solar plexus and your root chakra and all the lower 3 chakras to release all that dark, heavy, dense energy. You do that the same way, where you have to find the root of your physical problem. And the root of all dis-ease is inflammation. So what are the ways that we get inflammation? Toxins. We're overloaded with toxins. And this is why, think about it then, why our society would fight us so hard and increase prices in things that are clean, because society as general doesn't want us to heal. Then we're not using these things like pharmaceuticals and insurance companies for, because the insurance won't pay for, the things that are actually good for us and the things that we actually need. And again, I have tons of experience in this now. But what I was trying to get at is the fact that let's say you're doing all these things to try to help heal the inflammation, and you're still dealing with it. Well, in the same way that you have to physically remove yourself out of toxic home environments, physically toxic, where there's, toxic mold within the house, which that's another whole topic because 80% of our homes have toxic mold in them. And we're literally living in gas chamber boxes. And even if since you've lived in the house, have never seen like a water, spill within the house, doesn't mean that the previous owner didn't do it and didn't tell you, didn't divulge that information, because of course they wouldn't. They know that, I have experience and a story with that off my first mold house. But in the same way that we have to remove ourselves physically from these homes in order to even start to heal our bodies, we have to remove ourselves from stress toxins. Stress is even like the toxins that are in the environment, and stress, like it's the same if stress is not even like a higher, like, or a more dangerous toxin. Okay. And again, I just recently had experience with this as I had to remove myself from a toxic karmic narcissist. And I was only seeing her for 1 minute, 2 hours a week. So those 2 hours a week were that was a lot of stress. That's a lot of extra stress on your body, in the same way of living in a home that has toxic mold. If like your body's going to, like, it's going to have to fight harder. When it's already imbalanced and already trying to fight, you need to give your body a chance to heal by removing yourself from that physical environment, by removing yourself physically from whatever is creating some stress toxins for you, because they are going to continue to create the inflammation in your body because it's a toxin. So this is so important. And I really wanted to start speaking about this aspect of my healing journey because so I've been in, like, I'm coming up to 3 years where I've seen so many different versions of how to heal a body from, and getting it back in balance after, because the inflammation, think about it, that's just constant heat, and your body can't be hot like that. You have to we have a specific temperature our body is supposed to be at for a reason. And if it gets too hot or too cold, we know this. Like, if we freeze, we go into hypothermia. Too hot, we get a high fever, we can die, right? And that's what's happening it's like the doctors are just trying to mask, like, oh, here, we're just going to give you something that could create more issues in your body. And also, it's not helping you heal, but it's just making you feel less pain, because we kind of want to keep this rocking for you, because that's what's going to keep you coming and giving us money. Think about it. Just back up a minute and get a different perspective. I have got to experience, I've heard people talk about this throughout my entire time I've been on this planet. And I really got to understand this so much more intimately by experiencing exactly what that was. But I didn't allow myself to keep being held down by the Western medicine. I allowed myself to heal holistically and heal with functional medicine and Ayurvedic and herbs and Mother Earth, going back to the things that connect us and help us heal, and reminding ourselves that we can heal. Our bodies are meant to heal. That's what we're here to do. So I just recently realized that, and I knew this from before, that all this gratitude and staying in high vibration as well is going to help us heal. Obviously, high vibration is like a healing chamber of, it's like when you hear about these healing med beds by that the Arcturians have and had that's what that is. You're ascending, because Arcturians, I want to say, are at least ninth dimension or higher. And that's the thing, you're in a higher vibration. So you're in this beautiful high vibrational healing space. So I feel like, because my body had been imbalanced for 3 years, and it was only, and I kept getting it better, but then I'd get into another mold home, and then it would go down, and it was always something. So, and then there was a lot of stress wrapped around that, because when you have to move everything by yourself, that's stressful, because you don't have the energy when you're sick to move, right? Well, I'm telling you, you don't. It's very exhausting. And then it's stressful too, because you're like, oh my God, here's another fucking mold house. And I have to move. And now where am I going to find another place? Within my budget, and then you go down that. But that keeps you, again, in that stressful place. So when you're by yourself, like, this is the other reason that I know this is why I've had to heal everything in my body and in my mental and my physical, or my emotional, and everything, and spiritual, all by myself, because I am supposed to be the proof that if I can do this, anybody can do this. The other thing I wanted to say about this is I've had to learn to live on low amounts of money for like about 2-3 years, ever since the universe has been trying to get me to do this. And share my information that I've learned, I guess, in this fashion. And that's why it's happening now. And I think that's why I'm getting these breakthroughs now as well, is because I'm doing what the universe, my higher self, wanted and was, what I'm intended for. But I learned I taught myself how to live on low amounts of money and yet still be able to buy everything organic. So there is no excuse why anybody can't buy organic and shouldn't be eating clean. And money is not, yes, there are going to be times when maybe it is a little bit lower and you do have to, maybe you do, but I've never had to. That was the one thing that I took everything else out of the equation. It was like, okay, just minimal bills and good food. That's all, and enough food, and, whatever I need for my animals and my plants. But it became super minimal, super basic. And I was still always able to buy organic food. It's important. I am just... I see how my body used to feel when I was eating toxic food versus what my body feels like now that I'm not. And water, So, there's a lot that I guess I wanted to say in this about all that, because there's so much tied around this physical healing. But I really just wanted to start my discussion and my information about this out to the public and let you know, for those of you that are dealing with any type of stomach issues, the Crohn's, the diverticulitis. These were things that initially, when I was first seen by 19 different specialists, none of them could help me in Western medicine. But these were some of the things that they tried to test me for when, with what my symptoms were. This is the other reason that I can, without a doubt, go, that's interesting. They're all these things aren't related, yet they were testing for all these things. Interesting, What's the common denominator for them all? Inflammation. And if you heal the inflammation, you heal that, whatever they're going to name and throw that disease or illness at you. Same thing with mental illness. It's just releasing, right? And and then what I realized, that the inflammation is a low vibrational energy. It's heavy, it's dense. When you are inflamed, you feel heavy in that space. And then because you're even feeling heavier, because inflammation means that, your intestines are going from this to this. So it's, sorry, I saw something that made me kind of lose my train of thought. Therefore, going to be constipated due to that's what is going to happen if the fecal matter doesn't have a space to get out. It's just going to keep packing up, especially if your whole rest of your digestive system isn't breaking your food down properly, so that's the whole reason. So then it messes everything up. So if you have any of these illnesses and diseases, just start working on your inflammation. Take out all toxins, everything, stress toxins. You need to take everything out that has a toxin. And if it's a little overwhelming at first, I've been through this process and I know how to take things out, and add things in, so that it's not because it can be overwhelming. I get that. This could be very overwhelming. You're like, holy shit, everything I use is toxin. And that's a hard changeover. Yeah, sure. Because and think about it. Why is everything cheaper? That's not good for us. They want us to be able to buy, oh, it's cheaper, so I'm going to buy it, right? Cheaper doesn't mean better, In fact, it usually is the opposite, especially the super cheap stuff. But what was I just going to say? There was another part that I wanted to say about that. So, yeah, hold on one sec. So, what I was going to say though is I know I was at a point where I was explaining that once you take all the toxins out of your life, that's what I wanted to finish saying. Sorry about that. Is that it'll allow you. Wow, I just forgot it again. That's so interesting. Hold on 1 minute. Okay. So that was what I wanted to finish saying about that part was the thing you just need to be aware of is this is a marathon. Healing, when you're healing yourself, when your body gets to the point of inflammation, it was trying to warn you so much earlier. The inflammation is basically like, warning, warning, warning. You let this go, it's not going to get pretty from this point on. So now it's at a point where it's going to take longer to heal it. And you have to just be aware of that everything you're doing for yourself on a daily, because that was one thing that I hit here recently is I had been doing all the things externally, and everything good. I literally am all organic on everything and clean. And when my body got re-sick again, granted, I was still trying to re-heal from another mold exposure. 10th one, you get really good at it, but there was still more. My body wasn't healing completely, and it was because I had this stress toxin that was saying no, we're not going to let you heal quite yet. So, and that for me I needed that to happen like that so that I could see how important it is to make sure that you are putting yourself in energy toxin-free places, toxic-free energy spaces as well, sorry. Because it's going to take a minute. Well, I wasn't seeing the improvement while I was only just in an energy toxic space, stress toxic space. And I knew it. I was conscious of it. But I, again, was still in a space where I'd only learned this one time previous. And this is why I say I usually want to see this 2 or 3 times for myself before I'm like, got it. Heard, universe, I got you. And so once the universe now recently made me a little bit more sick because I allowed myself to stay in that stressful, toxic place around a karmic narcissist. And that's what I literally couldn't get up to go to work. I literally couldn't. I was that sick. The universe was like, okay, we're going to put you down. When you're by yourself, you got to do everything for yourself. You can't do anything, which means you can't go to work. You can barely go to the bathroom. You have barely, enough energy just for that. When your body takes you to that point. And that's what I'm saying is my body was probably more sick than I think it might have been when I initially got sick with mold and mycotoxin exposure 3 years ago. And so what I just wanted to say is now that I've had, it took me some weeks here. And this is what I think is not discussed enough in awakenings and healing and everything. It's lifelong. It's a life change. But we're so trained within our society to have quick fixes, quick cure, but there are no cures, right? But quick fixes. And they're not fixes. They're just cover-ups. They're, to hide and mask things. But that's the thing, is it's not like that. If your body gets to a point of inflammation, your body is saying, you need to reevaluate what is going on in your life. What are you exposing yourself to in the physical and the energetic space? And I had to, because of having the weeks that I have been away from that toxic, stressful environment, for the first time in this past year, since I have since I put myself back in my home state with my narcissistic family, toxic family members, and have been just exposed at a constant in all different ways, stress and physical toxins from my family, I didn't have a chance to, and throughout that time, I had been physically putting all the good in me, all the good, clean stuff. And I was a little frustrated going, what is happening here? It was the stress toxins that my body it needed time to release those, right? And I am here saying that my body has never felt better. It's finally at a space where I can be like, whoa, this is how I felt 3 years ago before I got sick with mold and mycotoxin exposure. Just saying. Just saying. Things are working properly. It's the first time that I've literally felt no inflammation. At least there's another way you can tell when you have inflammation or if somebody else does, is because you look pregnant. Have you ever seen, I think I've talked about this, I don't know if I put it out, but have you seen people that have skinny, the rest of their body, especially on men, they'll have thin arms, thin, everything, but they'll have what I call the pregnant belly. I call it the inflammation pregnant belly, especially when you see it on a man. Now you have to know if a woman could be pregnant, but it would look the same on a woman, but that it looks the same. So when you see anybody, when you see a human being that has just, and it's round, it actually, when you have a fat within your abdomen space, it's it's distorted, so it's kind of, it can be lumpier, it's not this perfect round spherical that an inflammation belly will give, and it's hard to the touch, just as hard as hitting your hand, versus when you're hitting actual fat cells within human, your hand will squish into it. But if it's inflammation, it's just because you got to think that's your intestines and your, everything in your organs having to expand to accommodate for this extra heat, right? So yeah, these are some tips and understanding to help you understand and know, do you need to heal inflammation in your body? And again, more than likely, I want to say I read a statistic that 80% of Americans, and it was weird too, because it was 80% have inflammation and 80% of the homes have mold in them, right? Toxic mold, not just mold, because there's mold that's not toxic, and then there's toxic mold, okay? But it's the toxic mold that's not talked about as frequently due to our society trying to suppress that information, because it's the toxins, in my opinion, and this is what my intuition and my guides are telling me, is that's the main thing that's creating this, the whole, it's the whole reason why they, it's never spoke about. Because that's a moneymaker for all the 1%ers that are being greedy and making money off of people suffering and pain. So once you understand all this, then you see, now you can do. Now and there is something you can do about it. You don't have to be stuck. The whole reason I started this is because my whole dad's side of the family, where the incest was from, which that makes sense then, because they all had kept in that, that type of sexual abuse in their whole life. So their bodies showed that trauma by creating inflammation in their body through arthritis. They all had a type of rheumatoid, and or my dad had polyarthritis. And then once the doctors put him on the prednisone gave him a lung disease. And then I saw another person go through that as well. And this was another thing that wanted me to get jump started into healing that was the initial first of all, I want to make sure that I could see that I needed to be able, if I released all this internal mental, that I could avoid potentially getting this physical situation occurring in my body. But then I wanted to, realize that for myself, and then try to offer that assistance to the family. And they don't want to heal. So you can't make people heal that don't want to. Well, now I have all this information and I know how to do it so well at this point. And it's easy, okay? But it takes a minute to heal. It depends how long you've been with this inflammation in your life. In the same way, how long have you had a trauma in your life before you let it go? The longer you hold that in, the longer it's going to take to release. Same thing with the physical inflammation. The longer you've had this in your body, the longer it's going to take to heal. So now you can kind of set a realistic expectation in your mind, like, this isn't going to happen overnight. But I know that it can happen because there's people that have experienced it and know from, my own experience that yes, you can heal. I've proven this to myself 10 times over and then some. And that's what I needed to see on this last bit of healing I needed to do. This last little bit of physical healing work that I needed to do was the universe needed me to see how toxic stress toxins are to our body. Yeah. So if anybody has any questions, because I will be putting out more videos about, what I've learned through this process and ways that you can help yourself. Through my perspective of my healing. And this is, I put in a lot of research time. I've read a lot. I've listened to a lot of functional medicine doctors. I had to basically become my own functional medicine doctor. I'm basically at this point an intuitive medical healer, is because I can feel now that I know what that feels like in my body. I mean, I could feel that in others too, but now I really understand that. And yeah, so let me know if you have any questions. And if any of you are dealing with some sort of, illness, that you don't mind sharing, comment, that, if you're dealing with trying to release this and rebalance your body. Just remembering that it takes a minute to rebalance the entire system, because it's like overrunning a machine. If you overrun a machine when it's in as it's got a wrench in it, it's only going to break down more and more and more till the point where it's like, sorry, you've left that wrench in there too long. You've left your body with inflammation too long, right? That's basically, inflammation is the wrench in your mechanical makeup of your body. So I hope that this all makes sense, and I hope that this is being heard in the way that I'm trying to put this out. So I thank you all for listening. I'm sending you all super healing and so much gratitude and love. Thank you for watching.